draw 10 degrees warmer.
Okay. Tommy's here? We're good. Ready? Ready? Okay, we're good? All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Madam Clerk, would you please call the administrative calendar?
Yes, Supervisor Clavin, there are items 27 through 125 on the administrative calendar. I also have 18 resolutions that are of an urgent or emergency nature. The first is entitled Resolution Authorizing the Grant of Funds to the Baldwin Fire District located in the town of Hempstead to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The second emergency resolution is entitled Authorizing the Transfer of Monies Received by the Town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic-related expenditures in the Town of Hempstead. The third is entitled Resolution Authorizing Amendment to the 2020 Adopted Budget to increase general fund estimated revenues, an increase to general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and the increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the Town of Hempstead General Fund undistributed. The fourth is entitled Resolution Authorizing the Grant of Funds to the North Belmore Fire District located in the Town of Hempstead to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The fifth resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the Town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic related expenditures in the Town of Hempstead. The sixth is entitled a resolution authorizing amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase general fund estimated revenues, an increase to the general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and the increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the Town of Hempstead General Fund undistributed. The seventh is the resolution authorizing the transfer of monies received by the Town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The eighth resolution authorizes amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase the general fund estimated revenues, an increase to the general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and an increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the general fund undistributed. The ninth resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the Town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 10th resolution authorizes amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase the general fund estimated revenues, an increase to the general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and an increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the general fund undistributed. The 11th resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the Town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 12th resolution authorizes the amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase the general fund estimated revenues, an increase to the general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and an increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the general fund undistributed. The 13th resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the Town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 14th resolution authorizes amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase the general fund estimated revenues, an increase to the general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and an increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the general fund undistributed. The 15th resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 16th resolution authorizes amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase the general fund estimated revenues, an increase to the general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and an increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the general fund undistributed. The 17th resolution awards bid contract 20A-2020 for the scanning and indexing of original property cards of records for the purpose of incorporating into OpenGov. The 18th resolution authorizes payment to Universal Biohazard Prevention and Response, LLC, for disinfection and decontamination services at various town facilities across the town of Hempstead. Supervisor, these will be items 126 through 143 on the administrative calendar.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to make a motion to adjourn any of the administrative items?
Yes, Supervisor. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn item number 53 and item number 27.
Second.
Shall I call the
Clerk,
roll?
can you please call the roll on the adjourning of item number 27 and item 53?
Supervisor Clavin. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Senior Councilwoman?
Hi, you heard me?
Yes, thank you. And Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on any of the other administrative
Wow.
calendar?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, there has been a great deal of interest in item 68 in the public, especially with the patrons of the Malibu Beach Club, concerning the resolution of a litigation conflict with the vendor. We have available by telephone our special litigation counsel from Tully Rinke, law firm Don Chesworth and Jean Welch, and also senior councilwoman's Dorothy Gooseby's counsel Steve Lester, who are going to make a recommendation to the board with respect to that matter. Mr. Chesworth, are you there with Mr. Welch?
Yes, we're here.
Okay.
And Karen Sanders is with us as well.
Okay, thank you, Karen, as well. So you have a recommendation to make to the board?
Yes, sir. We had the recommendation, which I communicated by letter on December 2nd, which is for the board to agree to the settlement proposal, which we had worked out with Dover. We think it's in the best interest of the taxpayers of the town. We believe that it resolves the questions which have been raised over the last couple of years, and we think it would bring the litigation to a close, which would be a very economically wise thing to do at this point. I believe that I'd like to thank the board for having been tolerant with us in working on this, and then also thank Mr. Alfano and Mr. Lester for having provided invaluable help to us. Gene Welch is clearly a fellow who's been there, and my law partner has been in court, and he and Karen have been dealing with the court. If the board will recall, we were retained a little over a year and a half ago to get involved in this matter to try to resolve the differences between Gourmet Corporation and the town, and we were well underway in that effort when a lawsuit was commenced against the town by the Dover Gourmet Corp. We've been defending that lawsuit, and we believe that this resolution, as set forth in the settlement agreement, is the best way to resolve the thing and benefit everybody, but most importantly, the taxpayers of the town.
Mr. Chesworth, would you and your team stand by in case the public has any questions?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Lester?
Yes.
You want to go up there?
Good afternoon, members of the board. Steve.
I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this point.
Yes, if you could stand by, Mr. Lester is going to make a recommendation, and then if any of the board members or the public has a question, obviously we will direct them to you.
Okay, we will be here.
Again, Steve Lester, counsel to the town board minority. I'm pleased to report that we were able to resolve the litigation brought by Dover Gourmet Corp. By entering into a new 15-year license agreement that solves some of the problems that gave rise to this dispute. Fortunately for the town, we were able to negotiate that all past due license fees and pilot payments will be paid by the vendor. And also he's agreed to make $300,000 a year in capital improvements to the facility at his expense. But I think one of the most important things that we established with this settlement is a set of internal controls so that the issues that caused this dispute to arise in the first place will not occur again based on this new license agreement and the controls therein. I also wanted to thank Don Chesworth, Eugene Welch, and Karen Sanders for their great work on this litigation. Because of their work on the litigation, we were able to get a very good settlement for the town of Hempstead, and they deserve a lot of credit for their guidance and litigation skills. So again, overall, this is an agreement that puts an end to litigation, and I think will benefit the town long-term regarding the maintenance of the facility. Thank you.
So, Mr. Supervisor, the team will be here through public comment throughout the administrative calendar if anybody should raise a question.
Okay, great. Does any member of the board wish to be heard on any items on the administrative calendar? Okay. If not, we have a number of people who came for the public who are speaking. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll go back to Councilman Dunn.
Amendment item 84 to be the Wantor Levittown Volunteer Ambulance, not the Levittown Fire Department. Levittown was covered in 75. So just 84 to say, just to be amended to say the Wantor Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corps.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin?
On the amendment only?
Yes, this would be a vote on changing the proposed amendment that Councilman Dunn has just spoken of. Okay, Supervisor Clavin? Councilman Blakeman? Councilman Carini?
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito? Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Now, we have members of the public who wish to speak on the administrative calendar. Again, if you would please just give your name and address for the record. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mary Ellen Cray, 436 Locust Avenue, Uniondale. On item number 40, those wells 7, 11, and 12, where are they located, please?
I believe, is Commissioner Reinhardt available, Joe? I believe he is, yes. Commissioner Reinhardt? Commissioner Reinhardt, are you available? Ms. Gray, if you give it a second, okay?
Thank you. In the interim, I would like to compliment the Water Department on the very informative water quality report, which I found quite interesting.
Thank you, Ms. Gray.
Hello, Supervisor. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Commissioner Reinhardt, we had a question regarding number 40 on the calendar. Ms. Cray, can you just repeat your question briefly?
Yes, where are the wells number 7, 11, and 12 located, please?
The bond resolution for item number 40 Involves the wells that are located on Oak Street in Uniondale.
I didn't catch what street? Oh, Oak. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, on item number 53, I'm definitely opposed to this. To me, it's a gag rule to further.
We just, you know, we.
There is no
There
53,
is no
ma'am.
53. Yeah,
I did not hear a vote to.
Yeah, we took that off the calendar earlier.
Thank you.
No problem.
Glad to hear it. And finally, on the item number 125, the Uniondale handicap parking, do you know where that is located, please?
What number? Is Mr. Reed available?
And while you're trying to locate him, I'd just like to say that we at Uniondale Community Council are looking forward to continuing to assist Uniondale youth during this pandemic. And we appreciate the funding which the town has helped us obtain for Uniondale Community Council Youth Project, which is now into its 40th year. It hit its 40th anniversary in August. And we wish you all a joyful holidays and a healthy new year.
Thank you, Ms. Cray, to you and the entire township and all the communities in it. Do we have Mr. Reed available to answer that question? Mr. Reed?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay, Ms. Cray had a question regarding the question, Ms. Cray?
The location for the handicapped parking permit.
The handicap parking
Uniondale.
location in Uniondale.
Number 125.
125.
Yeah, I mean, if you could just get the information, I'd be happy to look into it and contact the resident.
Okay, that's fine. Mrs. Cray,
Just wanted to know the street.
do you know the street by any chance?
Uh,
What was that?
Supervisor Clavin, we have looked, and it says Webster.
Webster Avenue? Yes, Webster Avenue.
Thank you very much.
No problem, Ms. Cray. Thank you again for your kind words and a happy, safe new year.
Yeah, if I could just get the information, I'd be happy to look into it.
Thank you. Okay. Name and address, please? Name and address, please.
Felix Procacci, Franklin Square. I'm talking on number 68, the settlement with Dover. The settlement is premature for two reasons. First, the town should not be renegotiating this contract without putting this contract out to bid. And second, the problems with the current Malibu contract haven't been fully investigated. In a patch article dated October 30th, 2019, Supervisor Candidate Don Clavin is quoted as saying, "I support a thorough and complete review of the contracts that have come into question and that all appropriate actions be taken based on findings of the investigation." The preliminary conference document says that a fact disclosure should be completed by July 31st, 2020. I agree with Candidate Clavin's statement that all appropriate action should be taken based on the findings of the investigation, but it appears that no findings of fact have been presented to the public, and the town board should wait for these findings before committing to a long-term contract. In the 2009 contract, the annual fee was $400,000, and the licensee had to pay a total of all the capital improvements. The new contract negates this clause, making taxpayers pick up $2.4 million of those capital improvements. It only requires a licensee to pay up to $300,000 for capital improvements each year into the future. The taxpayers should not pay for prior capital improvements when Dover was contractually obligated to pay. Before the town settles this case, the residents deserve some transparency. It is important to note that this was also the position of Candidate Clavin. If the 2009 contract was amended properly and approved by town officials, residents should be able to view this amended contract and the signatures of the town officials that signed this contract. In addition, residents should be able to view all the documents that show the work performed as well as the associated costs. For those board members that who decide to vote for this contract, they should explain to their constituents why residents are paying Dover's contractual expenses and why this contract is not being put out to bid first. For those board members who decide to abstain, they should explain what their conflict of interest is. Again, I agree with the position of candidate Clavin. There needs to be transparency and the appropriate actions should be taken when all the facts are known, but this has not happened yet. On another item, on the procurement thing, the exceptions, the acquisition of professional services, the 10,000 limit has been removed. It should be put back in. Thank you.
Afternoon, name and address for the record, please.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. I am really personally delighted that 53 was removed from the calendar. I don't know who even put that up or where it came from, but whoever it was should be fired or they should step down. Because at a time where the public needs to be in touch with you, to attack freedom of speech is even more than disingenuous. I'd like to speak on number 55, the procurement policy. As you know, Supervisor, I campaigned right next to you with this. On this item, you promised, I have the recording if you'd like to hear it, to do away with this. Nassau County has a $5,000 limit. If nothing else, if you don't sever it, please table it until you can revisit this. As it stands, there's no yearly limit to these contracts that can be handed out and renewed at $50,000. There's no consequences if the official signs a contract for over $50,000. It goes far and beyond the power, the abuse of power, to allow the commissioners and deputy commissioners who you promised their resignations, they're still in place, but it goes beyond their power to the power of other officials to do this. Worse than that, it's actually a worse procurement policy than Laura Gillen put in place, carelessly put in place. And I urge you to table this resolution until you can get those answers and that there are consequences if it's abused, and to again bring it back to the county's $5,000 limit.
I think it's dangerous. I think it's irresponsible, and we shouldn't have it. So you know what? I'll join you on this one. I'll tell you right now, when I'm supervisor, when I do that, I'm going to join you, and we're going to change that. We'll do one of the first resolutions. I think you're absolutely right about that.
I was cheering the hardest when you made that commitment, Supervisor Clavin. I hope you keep it, and I hope you table this resolution and return and think about something that the taxpayers can live with. People keep talking about what's good for the taxpayers. This is not good for the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
Stu Kroll, Great Neck. Let's see, Mr. Clavin, first of all, I'm glad also that 53 was tabled. I'll have a few general comments on that in a minute. There were 89 cats euthanized in the first 9 months of 2020. We are still waiting on the overdue foils on each particular cat. While the shelter is never reopened, no owner surrenders have been accepted. It would therefore seem likely that many of those cats were not gravely ill and quite probably adoptable as well. There couldn't have been that many more cats actually in residence at the shelter at the start of the year. Your stated reason for keeping the shelter closed was protecting the health of the shelter employees. That's a very noble goal. Are not the employees at Central Vet entitled to the same protections? This is obviously a plot to privatize the shelter and hand it over to a group that no doubt your minions have already chosen. I'm sure they want to take over the shelter with as few animals as possible. Who decides to take these lives so cavalierly? I would assume it's Pastore and Marino. Let's see, Mr. Dunn, as far as I know, you're the only person on this board that served in the military. I could be wrong about that. Anyway, I find it astonishing. You know, first of all, you banned emails. I'm sorry, what? Oh. Okay, anyway, emails have been banned here, so therefore disabled citizens or stay-at-home mothers have no right to speak. The arrogance of this board is almost comical. It must be nice to be in a position where you can imagine that if you hear unflattering comments, you can silence your opposition. I don't know what's going on back there, but in any case, I mean, why do these wars, fought? Why did you go and fight if not to protect people's right to have free speech? So in any way to even consider something where people could just talk out and take away our right to speak is absurd. You know, apple pie and waving a flag is all well and good, but actually what's important is keeping the constitutional rights that people, fought for and many people died for. So what can I say? Anyway, these actions eat away at the heart of our democracy, and we will, of course, make these actions very clear to all of your constituents. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Hello. Name and address? Name and address, please.
My name is Deborah Salant. I live at 20 Commonwealth Street in Franklin Square, New York. May I start? Good afternoon, Supervisor Clavin and Town Board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before the board. I'm here to request your support for the proposal to permit Greenfield Cemetery plot owners to donate their unused graves to the families of COVID-19 victims. We cannot forget them, but especially during this pandemic, we can and must help, especially during the holiday season of giving. I'm asking for the board to consider adopting a resolution directing Greenfield Cemetery to allow plot owners to donate graves to families experiencing financial difficulty. Aside from myself, perhaps there are other plot owners who would like to help such families. Greenfield's restriction that only a blood relation can be interred in a family plot, my plot purchased in 1916, is arbitrary and capricious. In September, Greenfield's representative told me that heirs of original plot owners who wish to be interred a loved one must satisfy all outstanding maintenance fees before a grave can be opened. My great-grandfather purchased this family plot over 100 years ago. Today, 2 plots are available for 4 burials, but $12,149 must be paid before an interment takes place. These 2 graves will never be used and should be given to COVID-19 families. Last evening, I spoke to Reverend Samuel of the Hempstead Methodist Church and informed him of my request to the board. I'm planning on asking him if he could please have members of the church write the board and support of my request to help our neighbors. My grandmother, David Freeman Dodge's daughter, had 2 children, a son and a daughter. Only her son had a child. I'm Ann Dodge's granddaughter, and the only living relation to David Freeman Dodge, my grandfather, only had 1 great-grandchild, me. Again, I respectfully request that the board consider my request to have these plots made available for COVID victims. Is it possible, under your direction, to have Greenfield ascertain how many other unused graves can be made available by using a time frame of 100 years since the last burial? If this can be done.
I know, and I appreciate that. Charles COVID, I know you think you had some sort of answer you want to provide there. Is that accurate?
Yes, Supervisor, we are completely aware of your very sensitive, equitable, fair proposal. And that is why appearing on administrative calendar number 113 is the relief that you seek. So starting today until further order of the town board, people who have ownership or control of burial sites in the town of Hempstead will be able to give those sites to victims of COVID-19, notwithstanding that they are not related by blood, marriage, or adoption to the owner. And I do commend you, and I know the town board does.
That was what I wanted you to know, that you had reached out to us. It was very heartfelt, very sincere. It was really a wonderful idea. And the entire town board, I brought it to them, and all of my colleagues immediately said, that's a great initiative. Our acting town attorney went right into the research, so it's actually on the calendar. I wanted you to know that it really was a wonderful idea you came up with. The board is very supportive, and it's on the calendar today.
Thank you, Mr. Clavin.
My comment to you is thank you. Well done. Thank you.
Perhaps we can lead the way for other communities to follow your actions. I'm so grateful for your decision. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for your leadership and quick action on this. And thank you, ma'am, for really keeping in the holiday spirit. This was a wonderful idea, and we're glad that you brought it to our attention.
Well done. Really, well done. Thank you very much.
May I ask one question? How do I go about doing this? What forms will be required by the cemetery?
I'll tell you right now. You see the tall, lengthy guy who just gave you the answer? He's going to personally reach out to you. We'll get you involved with the whole thing so you can see it. I promise you that right now. All right?
Thank you. God bless you all.
God bless you.
You made my holiday so special this year.
Take care. Say 2021. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thanks for coming down.
Is there anybody else? Anybody else in town board, in town hall that wanted to be heard on the administrative calendar? Okay. All right, then, may I have a motion on the administrative calendar in its entirety?
Supervisor, I make a motion that we accept the entire administrative calendar with the added additions. We already got 27 and 53.
Second.
Could we just be clear for the record that we're moving to adopt the entire administrative calendar? And forgive me, Senior Councilwoman, if you said it, with the exception of item number 53? And 27.
The 27, which we've already taken off. Those are off. We want to make sure they're not included, but we want to include all of the ones that you added.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's it.
The motion made. Is there a second on that motion?
Is there a second? Okay. Supervisor Clavin.
Madam Clerk, I vote aye on the entire administrative calendar except for item 68, which I abstain.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Madam Clerk, I vote aye with everything with the exception of 68 and 143, which I abstain.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
No, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I make it.
Second.
Supervisor,
I second it.
Aye.
Councilman Blake.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye, and I wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday.
Thank you. And Councilman Muscarella.
On behalf of the entire town board, to everybody here and everybody watching, we wish all of you a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a blessed Kwanzaa, and may 2021 be a healthy and safe year for all of us, our friends, and our neighbors. Thank you all very, very much. Now that the formal town board meeting has been adjourned, the town board will remain to listen to residents' comments. If I could start.
Supervisor?
Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor?
Yes, ma'am.
I must be excused because I have to do something here.
Councilwoman, if you want to be excused, you are excused, ma'am.
Thank you.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
I hope you're feeling good. If you can, please come on up to the front there and give your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jay Blackman. Good afternoon to the board members and to Supervisor Clavin and Town Clerk Murray. With your indulgence, I'd like to give a, I gave my name, didn't I? No, I didn't. Jay Blackman, 1566 Gary Street, East Meadow. With your indulgence, I'd like to give a brief history of a proposed solar farm on the site of the old Oceanside landfill. At the December 11th, 2018 board meeting, a cost-benefit analysis of the solar farm project not to exceed $10,000 was awarded to Clearview Consultants of Quorum, William Miller, CEO, to see whether the proposed site was economically feasible. Interestingly enough, 4 months later, a 12-page formal agreement was signed by Mr. Miller, Mr. Conroy, the Commissioner of Sanitation, and the Deputy Comptroller. The agreement was for $170,000 plus $195 per hour for unforeseen incidentals. Starting in September of 2019, I began coming to meetings to ask about the progress and or updates made by the Clearview consultants. Each meeting I would get the same answer, nothing yet, but we'll be speaking to Mr. Miller next week. That was either from Mr. Diaz-Esposito or from Mr. Blakeman. I got the same non-committal answer. The following week, I called Mr. Blakeman and Mr. Diaz-Esposito's office to get a copy of the report that proved that the solar farm was economically unfeasible, and there was no availability of the report or any form. Eventually, I discovered in speaking to the Commissioner of Engineering, Douglas Tuman, on March 11th, 2020, that in actuality, there was no report. In early October, which was just a couple of months ago, I spoke to Mr. Miller of Clearview Consultants, who informed me that he never told anyone on the board that the project of the solar farm on the landfill was economically unfeasible. He swore no one got that from him. So where Mr. Blakeman came up with that, I'm not sure. In fact, he was in talks with a gentleman by the name of David Sheeran, who happened to be the CEO of Empower Solar, which is a company within minutes of that Oceanside landfill located in Island Park. As recently as 3 weeks ago, I spoke to Mr. Sheeran. Mr. Sheeran contacted me and told me that he proposed a $350,000 per year lease to develop the solar farm at the landfill, increasing by 2% each year following the construction of the site. He asked me to make this offer and put it in the public record. How this could not possibly be a win-win situation for Hempstead and for the climate, I don't know. So what we are asking for, myself and our group, is to have a virtual meeting with Supervisor Clavin and Mr. D'Esposito and discuss it. Just
Happy to point you, if you give Kathy Malone, my deputy, who's going to take your name and number, and we'll be happy to facilitate some sort of meeting. Absolutely.
okay. Do you know what's going on with this thing, or is it just completely?
Like I said, I'll facilitate a meeting. We get all the facts. I appreciate you coming today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Blessed New Year.
You too.
Kathy?
You go around back. You gotta go around. That's right. You gotta go around. Same way you came in.
So I have always considered the town of Hempstead to be forward-looking and innovative. For example, using guinea fowls to reduce the tick population on the Merrick landfill, Levy Park, and of course, many, many more. Now you have an opportunity to benefit from a proposal to lease part of the Oceanside landfill for a solar farm. This idea was brought to you several years ago by members of the Sierra Club, of which I am one. I urge you to continue your history of cutting-edge decisions by actively pursuing the development of the solar farm. One of the solar companies has offered a yearly rent for the property, which will not only mean no cost to the town taxpayers, but also a source of revenue. I am here to urge you to meet with Sierra Club members and CARE, the Oceanside High School Environmental Club, to pursue this worthy project. We have endeavored to obtain a meeting, but have, sorry, the light isn't good, have been stonewalled. No one even gets back to us. Supervisor Clavin, you have presented as an approachable public servant. It is time to arrange a meeting, please. All the best to all of you for the holidays and the new year.
Can I just be heard for 1 second just on that issue? It's not that we're insensitive to the issue. There's a couple of things, and I actually was involved in my private life in financing solar farms. So I can tell you that basically we would have to put it out to bid. We don't know if $350,000 a year is a good price or not, because it depends on how many megawatts you get out of the solar farm and what the current market is for megawatts. Right now, the current market for megawatts is very down because there are more alternative energy sources such as wind, hydro, etc. So that's number one. Number two is you would have to get the permission of the Oceanside community and their input, because obviously this is a major project and Councilman D'Esposito would take the lead there. And the third thing is that there are EPA regulations and DEC regulations with respect to the site. We don't even know if the site is ready right now for any kind of development. So it's not that we're just pushing it off and not considering it. There are a lot of different things involved that would have to take place in order for that to come to fruition, and some of them may be insurmountable with the EPA and the DEC.
Well, I understand the difficulties. We are only asking for a meeting, and we've been stonewalled. Okay? You know, don't build up the problems before we even.
I've told you I'd be delighted to. So.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're looking forward to it.
Coffee or tea, that's whatever.
Thank you.
I'll take care of it. All right.
All the best. Thank you. I'm sorry? No, I'm finished. Go out that way.
Yeah.
Take care, Ms. Craig. Name and address, please.
Felix Procacci, Franklin Square. First, I want to say I'm very disappointed that no one would explain their vote on the Dover Group. It's such a great deal. The guy actually got, Dover Group actually got more than they were asked for had they won the lawsuit. So that's real good negotiating on your part. I mean, you couldn't do any worse. On the H2M contract I had foiled months ago, now I think it's 3 months ago, I had gotten something, but it didn't explain, it didn't have all the information I actually foiled, and I requested it from Marie Jerome to give me actually what work was done, and I'm still waiting. I think it's been like 4 weeks since I asked for additional information. Also on the town's ethics board, Mr. Covert had mentioned that that it's active now. We have our 5th member. I had to foil the members because I can't even find it on the town's website. So I think the foil's due in 2 or 3 days. It's taking 20 business days just to get a couple of emails, 5 emails and 5 names. I'm not sure why that is. On your stimulus plan that you announced on March 31st, and it was supposed to stimulate the economy in 2020. And I just went to the website last week, and I see that you have a ban, and of that $40 million that you were going to stimulate the economy for 2020, you're only borrowing $5.9 million of that money. So you're misleading residents when you're telling you're going to spend $40 million in 2020, and it's really going to probably be in 2021. And a lot of the money, probably more than half of it, is money that was authorized in prior years. 26 million, I believe, was authorized in 2017. So when you're going to make a bond resolution, don't go running to the press and telling them that you're going to do something, because they don't know any better. They'll write what you say, even though you don't really mean it till maybe 3 years from now. So, because they gave you free advertising, and that's why you passed that bond referendum, not to fix the roads in 2020, because you had no intention of doing it, because you never went to market to get that money. Also, this plan that you have here, there's more density in the lobby than there is here. You could easily fit people here, space them safely, instead of doing this ridiculous thing that you're doing. I'm not sure who thinks about it, but thank you very much. I got my coat.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. It was hard to hear in that other room. I assume you passed the procurement policy that allows for beyond the officials, meaning commissioners and deputy commissioners, to delve out $50,000 contracts, unlimited, without consequence. You should just hand your seats over to the Democrats now. They don't have my theory. Theirs is, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. And you made a lot of mistakes today. One thing that I want to discuss is the lawsuit that Town of Hempstead taxpayers were straddled with, started by Tony Santino, who I hope will be under subpoena shortly. The Nassau County Comptroller won that lawsuit to proceed with an operational audit. I wanted to remind you, Supervisor Clavin, of your words again, and I wanted to point you to Town Clerk Murray, who, when she experienced the same issue with an audit coming in, she had the good sense, and I like to think compassion, to bring in experts and give them some authority to make some changes. And I urge you to not only cooperate with this operational audit, but to make those changes that are needed. Because in my view, whatever is uncovered there, you would be accomplices in all of it. Because I have been urging this board to make these changes. In fact, I was told by the union president that they didn't move the director because they didn't want to give Laura Gillen the credit. They fooled us into believing that they'd bring in an assistant director, and the board discussed this openly not long ago, that this person would have the authority. They couldn't leave the shelter without that kind of authority. And all we have now is another bill for the taxpayers to pay and another person taking orders. So again, I urge you to make the changes and not wait for what I know will be exposed at some point. I also would like to know if you're going to reinstate the contactless TNR program. If nothing else, allocate some COVID funds to organizations that specialize in TNR. We have a huge problem out in the community, and taxpayers are paying twice. I'm asking again if you will allow public comment on the virtual meetings. It's imperative, and it's wrong of you to ice out the public when they need to weigh in on issues. And during the virtual meetings, they should have this option. I hope you get to work on the shelter, Supervisor, like you promised. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Good afternoon, Maria Gia Engel, Oceanside, New York. I'm here to ask the board for a decision. As I have informed you in the past, my cat was illegally seized. I'm sorry? I have a question. On Friday, this past Friday, I emailed the entire board pictures that you could forward her. I would like... I mean, there's this black and white evidence that my cat was put up for adoption, obviously behind my back while I was looking for her, and that she was assigned adoption numbers, that she was on the adoptable list before she was adopted. Can I also provide her with my documents? I mean, she has, I don't know what documents she has. Can we exchange them in a...
She's got everything you've sent, and really, like I said, she asked to take the lead and...
Okay, let me speak with her.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
When? How?
We're in the back room right now.
Yes, Bonnie Zarillo, 3903 Kiley Drive in Seaford, New York. I'm speaking to you today because I actually raised my hand in the last town board meeting and a glitch did not allow me to speak to you. I did send my comments forward to Ms. Kate Murray, and she did include them into the record, but I feel this is such an important topic. I weathered the storm today and came out to speak to you. It's about resolution number 92. It's the placement and training of unadoptable animals at the town shelter. This money has been set in an account for 2 years. It is sat in limbo. However, volunteers at the shelter have made it possible to allow 12 dogs to be picked up by rescue, trained, and now they are sitting in homes. Not all 12 are sitting in homes. 3 are currently are in sanctuary situations where they were determined that they were unadoptable and they did not belong out into a home, and 1 is currently still in training. This contract was a contract that was set aside where the town and the director put $30,000 into an account to help these dogs. I would say on average, and I've been at the shelter volunteering for 10 years, there is 1 per month that comes in that falls into a category of what we call unadoptable or rescue only. They need special help. This year, from November 2019 to November 2020, 12 dogs have been placed in their homes and picked up by rescue. A state of Washington rescue came and took 3 more dogs from us at the request and the raising of money by volunteers because the other 3 found wonderful homes. So please do not overlook this valuable, valuable money that you set aside for these unusual animals. Right now, we have 12 dogs sitting in our shelter who have been there over 2 years. 3 of them have been there 3 years. Can you imagine living in a shelter for 3 years and not getting help? It's not that they're not doing their job. Everybody in the shelter does their job and due diligence. These dogs don't know how to live in a home, so they go into a train and board situation. Usually it's a solo dog with 1 trainer, and they get the help they need, and then they go off to their forever homes. I'm giving you an example that this works because a rescue pulled up a dog that I walked 3 years at the shelter. Can I continue? Okay, it was just a matter of possibly rewriting a contract where the money still exists. It does dwindle. We started out at 30,000 and we lost 3,000 to depreciation. It's not that it actually went on the animals. And I saw that Resolution 92, the money was set aside for salaries. These dogs don't need salaries. They're getting help or what they can get at the shelter. They need a rescue. We have wonderful trainers on Long Island. So many from the type of, standardized training to force-free training. There's so many on Long Island that we can. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Murray.
Oh, I can breathe. Marcia D. Thierry, 34 Lee Avenue, Merrick, New York. I am inquiring once again regarding enacting a new tree preservation act in our township. Tricia from your legal office informed me that she's in the process of obtaining information I had presented to the board multiple times regarding other township laws and penalties when killing healthy trees. There isn't a day when I don't see either a tree cutting truck, a truck of limbs from a mature tree that was already cut down, or a company cutting down a mature tree. If I am seeing this, I can't imagine how many more healthy trees are being killed. It's a chain reaction. We build on every inch of open space, cut down all of the mature trees, all in the name of progress. The predatory animals lose their homes, and the prey, especially rats, take over and get into our homes. This is what is occurring on Long Island, as per the news. Nature has a balance, and taking away that balance is creating Armageddon. Using pesticides is not the answer. Living with nature is. Let's not give in to developers. I look forward to hearing positive preservation info from your staff. And just one other note on the Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter. I used the TNR program at the town for many years. It saved me money, it saved lives, it stopped the overpopulation. I will not use Central Vet. I know for a fact at least 4 cats have died in the midst of having them spayed or neutered. I use my own money. I go to my own private vet. A lot of people don't have money to do that, but I've spent thousands of dollars, and I just know there are more kittens dying out there now than there have ever been before. So please reenact the TNR program with the town. It was a wonderful act, and you saved many lives. Thank you. Happy New Year.
I see green.